Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today's video is about Hellenic polytheism or Hellenic paganism and how to start. If you've been interested in Hellenic polytheism or Hellenic paganism, and you are trying to figure out, well, how do I start? This is the video for you, and hopefully I don't ramble too much. I tend to ramble. I'll try and not ramble, but I can't make any promises on that one. First off, Hellenic polytheism is a lot of research. There's a lot of research that goes into this religion because it is such an old religion, and we want to make sure that we honor the gods in a way that is appropriate to that god or goddess. And we, that in itself shows that we care about them. Like doing research to, I'm gonna use Apollo as an example for most of this because I love him and I'm devoted to him. But yeah, when I first wanted to start, or when I first started working with Apollo, I did a lot of research into what he likes, because it's a devotional act to look into someone. It means you care for them. If you are going to get your friend a gift, you're not going to get them a gift that you just, didn't really put much effort into or think about. If you really care about that friend, you're going to look into what they like and you're going to get them something that that they're really going to enjoy. And that your friend will see that. Your friend will see that you put all that effort in and will feel loved and cared for. And we want the gods to feel that way. We want to honor the gods in a way where they feel our passion and they feel our love for them. And because that's what they care about when we give offerings and when we say our prayers, is that they're coming from our heart. And that is why research is just a huge aspect, because it shows that you care enough to make sure that you're doing things in a way that's traditionally appropriate. And I'm a revivalist, and a revivalist, or you can choose a path. There's Reconstructionism or revivalism. Reconstructionism is when you are worshiping the gods in a way that was traditionally accurate or historically accurate to how they were worshipped thousands of years ago. And so when you're doing rituals and when you're doing festivals, you are trying to accurately line them up to like the specific day that they happened, and you're trying to make sure that you're doing the festivals the way they were celebrated, except without the sacrifices. But yeah, you're trying to make it as historically accurate as possible. You're reconstructing the way it was years ago. Revivalists, on the other hand, they can incorporate aspects of like traditional stuff in their worship, but they're bringing it into contemporary society. They're bringing it, they're including stuff that would, like, usually don't include, like unverified personal gnosis, which is when you have, it's basically your personal experiences with deities and like stuff you personally connect to them but isn't traditionally connected to deities. So you shouldn't go like preaching that everyone should give your unverified personal gnosis to gods, because it's your personal experience. It's not everyone's experience. But yeah, revivalism can include more of that. Like, for example, an unverified personal gnosis could be that you give Apollo a bisexual flag as an offering, because in his myths he had male and female lovers, and that traditionally, historically, that wasn't given. The bisexual flag wasn't a thing in ancient Greece, so a Reconstructionist might not, agree with or use that kind of offering in their own path. But a revivalist who leans into their unverified personal gnosis, they might offer that to Apollo. And I've seen people offer that to Apollo. I haven't done that specifically, but I've seen people offer that to him. And so don't feel pressured to choose a path like right off the bat. You don't need to, um, that's just a lot of pressure, and you're just starting out, and you don't need to do that. That it happens naturally. Usually, you will see what you like to do more, and then you will figure out what path you're on from there. Um, I would also recommend, doing research on the gods, what they all are connected to, and seeing who you feel most connected to, who you like the most, um, and you know, doing more research on that deity specifically. Perhaps maybe going as far as to set up an altar for them to give them offerings and stuff. If you are feeling a connection to a deity, that is a pretty big sign, at least in my opinion, that you should work with them, um, and or worship them to start off. And I would recommend for beginners that you can worship all the Theo and Hellenic polytheists, Hellenic pagans. We do worship all the Theo, but when you specifically are devoted to or worshiping one god more intensely than you would just general worship, um, that kind of relationship and that kind of worship is different than just the casual worship of all the Theo. Like when I pray, um, I say first and last prayers to Hestia, but I don't. I'm not devoted to Hestia, so that's pretty much the extent of my worship to her, unless I'm doing something, or I'm praying to her for something that's connected to the realm that she rules over. But mostly, I find that my devotional acts, my worship, is just heavily leaning into Apollo because he is the deity that I feel most connected to. And when I first started my Hellenic polytheistic journey, I wasn't working with Apollo. I was actually devoted to Persephone. And this was I kind of wish that I could, redo my initial worship to Persephone because I was so inexperienced at the time. I really had no idea what I was doing, and this was years ago now. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, I did research into what she likes, and I set up an altar to her, but I didn't really get like the whole thing. I didn't get offerings. I didn't know that you had to wash your hands before you pray, and I didn't know that you had to like miasma, what that is. I didn't know, um just like everything. I feel like I just was very ignorant to it, and I kind of wish that I had a video like this to know more what I was doing, know more of what to do. And I eventually came to understand that, I didn't have that strong of a connection with Persephone, like compared to my relationship with Apollo. Um, Apollo, our relationship started like very intensely right off the bat, and that's just like how he is. Um, but it was way different because I had the experience and the knowledge to know what I was doing. So, yeah, if you're going to start worshiping a specific god or all the gods, do research. It is so important. I can't emphasize it more than what I am now. It's just a huge part. Like read the myths, but know that gods are not their myths. Um, you can, some people will disagree with that, but that is my stance on that. Gods are not their myths. The gods usually aren't painted in amazing ways in their myths, and we can read their myths as an honor to them, but we have to understand that that is not like who they are per se. Um, and when you are done doing research, um, you'll come to understand like how much you'll understand more what you need to do, um, to kind of start on this path. Points for Hellenic polytheism that is kind of important is that altars are pretty important for um, like especially household worship and even like civic or state worship in ancient Greece. There was altars, and if you are in the closet with your faith, I can understand why you can't have an altar just like set up in the open, even though we all wish we could because we all want to be open with our faith. But if you can't, recommend an Altoids can. I have Hermes, um, his altar in an Altoids tin, his travel altar. And you can just make a really small altar in there or in a shoebox or just any little box that you can keep hidden, um, and keep, you know, a tea light candle in there or a chime candle, um, and, you know, perhaps like salt, uh, little spell jars. This is more going into witchcraft than Hellenic polytheism, but specifically for Hellenic polytheism, I would put a candle in there, to honor the Theo. Like when you light it, you can light it in honor of the Theo. Theo is gods in Greek, just in case you didn't know that. So if you ever read that while you're doing research, that's gods in Greek. And Hellenic also means Greek. So when you read Hellenic polytheism, that means Greek polytheism. Uh, the more you know. And yeah, if you're making that altar to a specific deity, um, like my Hermes altar, I I don't have a candle in there for him because I don't have a chime candle. That's a color that he likes. But you can put a tea light candle in there or chime candle, and if you do research on that deity, you'll know what colors are connected to them, so you'll be able to choose what color candle should go in their altar. Um, and incense is a big thing that the gods like. They like different kinds of incense, so do research into what kind of incense they like and put that on their altar, burn that on their altar. Um, Crystals, what crystals do these deities like, slash are connected to them? When you do research, you'll also be able to find that. Um, and you can, if you have a travel altar, you can find really small crystals that you can fit in an Altoids can or fit in a shoebox. They don't have to be big, expensive chunks, though. If you are working with a deity for a long time and you want to give them a big crystal that costs like a chunk of money, you can do that if you're connected to them like that. There's really no nobody saying no, you can't practice that way. And if someone's trying to do that to you, ignore them, because your faith is valid, and it really is kind of a huge emphasis just put on if you care and if you it's coming from your heart. Um, Herbs are also something to research connected to deities, and the gods, and you can also put that on their altar. I have bay leaves on Apollo's altar because he likes bay leaves, and that's like historically connected to him. Now that you know that you need to do a lot of research, and you need to know that an altar is pretty important, but don't feel uh, ashamed if you have a small altar or hidden altar, just like an Altoids can. Um, when more good things to know is cleansing and purification and miasma. Miasma is Basically, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like the natural, like, kind of ucky negative energies that kind of like fill us, and like um kind of we get affected with over um time, and from interactions with like negative energies, or um like for example, historically, when a funeral happened, when someone would pass, um, we would be filled with miasma. You'd be filled with like the negative energy from that. Um, and before you connect with the gods, you need to cleanse yourself of that miasma and of that negative energy, um, in order to interact with them. Um, there is like historic like passages connected to miasma. Actually, let me see if I can find. So I just grabbed my Hellenic Polytheism book real quick, and I recommend this book if you're a beginner, because it does have Hellenic Polytheism Household Worship by Labris. It is a very good resource, and so when you are going to cleanse yourself of miasma, the way to do it is, well, for revivalists, you can just wash your hands um, in a sink, or take a bath, take a shower. That counts as cleansing yourself. Um, but if you want to do it traditionally, how it was done, or just traditionally, yeah, traditionally how it was done, you can make kernips, which is in a bowl or basin, um, and it is filled with water and salt, and you can in you would burn a like cleansing herb like sage or a bay leaf. You'd burn that, and then you just drop it into the bowl of water, and that is actually how you make holy water. That is actually how you make kernips, and you would just wash your hands in that bowl, or you can like take the bowl and like dump it onto your hands, and that counts as cleansing. Uh, but yeah, um, this quote says kernips, which literally means the hand wash. Nestor, driver of chariots, began the opening rite of hand washing and sprinkling with barley grains, and earnestly he prayed to Athena, cutting off as a first offering the hair from his head and casting it into the fire. That's from the Odyssey. Yeah, before you pray, before you interact with the gods, before you touch like what's on their altar, it's good to wash your hands, and it's just like a respect thing. Um, yeah, it's just a respect thing. You can also pray to, like, for example, you can pray to one of the gods. I specifically would. You can. I don't, but you can pray to Apollo, for example, because he's connected to like purification and rituals relating to purification. So if you are making um, like kernips, for example, you can ask him to bless that water. Um, that is something you can do. Okay, so next we have prayer and how to pray. When you pray, it's pretty important that it just comes from your heart. If you're praying and you don't mean what you are saying, um, then it's not. The gods don't appreciate if you aren't putting effort and putting love into what you're doing. Um, and that doesn't mean you need to go and write a like 5-page essay long prayer, but it does mean that your heart needs to be in it. Um, and when you pray, uh, it should the first and last prayer goes to Hestia, um, because she is one of the principal gods for um, Hellenic polytheism and worship, and it's kind of a huge aspect of the religion that, when you do rituals, uh, when you do prayers, when you do libations, which counts as a ritual, but um, you give the first and last to her, um, and she will keep you safe, keep you protected, keep your home safe, and then after you give that first prayer to her, then you would continue on into giving the deity that you're praying to. Um, then you'd continue on with their prayer, and then you'd do as many prayers as you need, and then you would give her the last one. When you are praying to um, the heavenly deities, I forget the word. I believe how you say it is Uronic, but I could be wrong. But they're the heavenly deities, the deities on Olympus, and then you have the chthonic deities or gods, which are like the underworld deities, like Hades, and like Hermes can also count as one. Persephone, depending on which epithet you use for Hermes. But when you pray to the heavenly deities, heavenly gods, you are putting your hands facing up, and you usually would stand. Um, and then when you are praying to the chthonic deities, you would face your hands down. You can even press your hands to the ground um, when you're praying to them. This quote, for example, says, "There are references in ancient texts regarding the prayer posture. So I spoke, and he prayed to the Lord Poseidon, stretching out both his hands to the starry heavens. Dark-haired Poseidon, earth enfolder." And that is from Homer. So when you can see, historically, you would pray like to Poseidon, because Poseidon counts as a heavenly deity, heavenly god. You would put your hands up, outstretched, and that's how you pray. There's different kinds of prayers. There's hymns, and then there's prayers, and hymns tend to be more longer and more formal than just like a casual prayer. Like if you're doing a ritual, you could read out a Orphic or Homeric hymn, and that would be pretty. That would just be like add some formality to the ritual, and it's a traditional prayer or hymn. So that it was said when people were invoking or speaking to the gods. I think the last thing I'll talk about in this intro to Hellenic polytheism is that offerings are a big deal in Hellenic polytheism compared to like other more common religions, Christianity and Catholicism. You don't really have offerings in the way you do for Hellenic polytheism, and it's historically connected to the religion. It's something that the ancient Greeks did, and when you are connecting to the gods, it is good to offer them stuff, and like stuff that historically they liked. But if you are in the closet with your faith, then don't feel pressured to, you know, give your food or something as an offering, because I don't, you should put your safety first. The gods would want you to put your safety first before offering them something and then potentially getting yourself in trouble. So a good thing I would recommend is like a digital altar, digital offerings. I do digital offerings to Apollo all the time. I usually give him physical offerings as well, but I like to give him many offerings, and so I will make digital offerings for him every Sunday alongside like offering him incense or water or food or tea or whatever. Um, and that can be like imagery of what they that what is connected to that deity, and this is more of a revivalist thing. If you're a Reconstructionist, you might not like digital offerings, but speaking as a revivalist, this is part of my worship, so this is why I'm recommending it. And yeah, the it's good to, if you're praying to a deity or god, it is good to offer. You can offer something before, um, before you pray, and then you can also offer something after, or you could just offer something after. I like to offer something before as like a kind of like, help me out with this, please. Here's kind of like um, a little bit of what you might get if you help me out. it's a more formal and more respectful than that. That's just like it's kind of like the joke about it. And then when they actually do help you, you can give an offering to show that you appreciate it and you appreciate them and that you care for them, you love them. Um, like I know I give offerings to Apollo, and I always feel like I wish I could give more because I hold so much love for him in my heart that I just like I want to give him everything. I'm just like, I wish I could give you the world, Apollo. But yeah, it's a big part of the faith, and um, yeah, if you actually, one last thing, communication. Communication is a huge thing that jump started my relationship with the gods. And if you feel awkward talking to the gods, which I get, and I was awkward and still am awkward sometimes, um, you can write down you can write down what you want to say to them, and I recommend talking about like literally anything and everything. Um, Speak to your to the god that you're talking to. Um, Use Apollo as an example. Like I have a devotional journal to Apollo, and I'll just write to him like stuff that happened that day, kind of like a diary, but I'm specifically talking to him, and I'm talking to him about stuff that I'd like him to know. And I'll always start off the journal entry with like saying hi to Apollo and making sure that, you know, he knows this entry is for him, even though I did dedicate the journal to him, but I still like to make sure I say that. Um, but you can literally talk to the gods about anything, and that will make your connection with them stronger. And like, you can, when you pray and when you talk to them about what you're going through, um, that makes your relationship with them stronger. So if you're going through like a hard time, for example, don't think like, they're not going to want to talk to me because I'm like unclean right now. I'm just filled with negativity, filled with depression. Don't think about it that way. If you're that worried about that, you can wash your hands, but you should go to the gods when you're feeling down like that, because I often find that when I am at my worst, that is when I pull away from the gods, and that is when I need them most. So cry to them, you know, go to their altar and cry to them, tell them what's happening, and they will listen to you. They hear our prayers and they hear us when we talk about it. Um, so yeah, if you communication's huge. You can literally talk aloud. You can talk in your head. You can write it down. Just, you know, say their name, like, hear me, Apollo. Hi, Apollo. Um, Hi, Hermes. Hear me, Hermes. I call upon Hermes. Like, just say that and make sure they know that you are um, addressing that to them. And I assure you, they are listening to you. Um, yeah. I'll make some more videos about this, about Hellenic polytheism. But yeah, I just wanted to make like a general video about how to get started, what's kind of like the basic parts of Hellenic polytheism or Hellenic paganism. If you have any further questions about how to start, or like really any further questions about anything relating to the religion, feel free to comment below and ask, or ask on my Tumblr, devoted to the gods. It's in the description if you don't know how to write it. But yeah, I'd love to answer questions, and yeah, may the gods treat you how you treat others, because we need to all treat people with kindness. And make sure to drink water, eat food, and take your meds. Trans rights.